chose Project 5, and Project 5 talks about how your body speaks, and I realize that that's in relation to the way you give your speech and the body language within that. But it caused me to start thinking about nonverbal communication and how we use that and how important and actually powerful that it is. Do you realize that 60 to 90% of all of our communication is nonverbal? That means no words. So I think it 60 to 90%. That percentage is calculated based on the specificity of the studies that are being provided. So the bottom line is this. Well over half of all our communication is nonverbal. So as I started pondering over that idea, animals came to mind. I love animals, and I like to watch them interact and how they behave. And since I was a kid, I remember thinking, how do they do that? They don't talk. How do they know to move here, stand here, follow this? And you know, you guys know I love dogs, and I know I just watch a lot about dogs. And one thing that you see, if you see dogs as a pack, you always have a pack leader, and they establish that position. And then all the dogs within the pack are followers, and they all function with exact, precise communication. In that, they know when to eat, they know when to sleep, they know when to hunt, they know when to travel, and all of that is communicated without words. So, after I thought about animals, then came babies. We all have experienced being around babies. And we talk to them, and we sing to them, we smile at them, and we do all that kind of stuff. And that's all really important, and it's valuable, and there's a place and a time for that. But if you want to be able to effectively communicate with a baby, and I'm sure you're experiencing this right now, you better pay attention to nonverbal communication, because there's your answer. If you want that thing to go, that's not thing, that's not nice. That baby to stop crying, you better figure out what you're going to do. And it's not going to be because they're going to say, hey, I'm hungry. You're going to just have to pay attention to nonverbal communication. Another thing that came to mind was language barriers. Have you ever tried to communicate with someone who didn't speak the same language that you spoke? And this is what it just cracks me up when I catch myself in this position, but then to even see someone else do it. Okay, you're talking to someone and you speak a different language, and you just start getting louder. And you start louder and like they can't hear you. They can't hear you. And then they look at you like, what's going on? Then you start talking a different language. You start using nonverbal communication. All of a sudden, food becomes food. Sleep becomes sleep. Everybody understands. It's nonverbal communication. When my husband and I were dating, we would visit his grandparents, and his grandpa's name is Shug. That's what Shug, he goes by Shug. And one thing that I noticed right off the bat with Shug was that he was a very effective nonverbal communicator. Excuse me, in that, when we would go visit, if he needed Bart, my husband, to do something or follow him or show him something, he simply did this. Bart! Bart got up and followed him out the door. He's like, I mean, it worked. Now, Shug is better at that than I am, I'll just tell you. So I'm hard to joke like that when I say that. But nonetheless, he's like that. Well, now, Shug doesn't just leave it there. When he communicates with a story, he does the same thing. He uses words to hit the high points, and the rest of it's motions. He points, he directs, and at the end of the story, you got the point. It was clear. Now, Shug is a well-respected man, and he's held offices in his area and all that kind of thing. And the reason I think that he's so well-respected is because he's consistent. And part of that consistency comes from his body language matches his verbal communication and his emotions. So think about that for a minute. Your body language is your truest representation of what you're saying. That's why you sometimes trust what someone's saying, sometimes you don't. Now, with the consistency in communication, think about this. When you talk about like universal methods of nonverbal communication, like a smile. Now, I want you to think about something. If I walk up and I smile at you, like I'll smile at you. I'm happy to be here. What does it trigger within you? What do you feel? Now, it may be different for everybody, but it triggers something. That's my point. Because every action like that triggers a reaction of some sort. Think about if you're talking to someone. and you're carrying on a conversation, and they're making eye contact, and they're nodding along as in agreement, or they're disagreeing, or their eye shape changes where it gets smaller or it gets bigger, those kinds of things, you know that they're actively engaged and they're listening to you. At that moment, what you're saying is valuable to them. So that's nonverbal. Think about this. What about when you're talking to them and they're making eye contact with you and the phone rings and they pick it up and they start looking and they're like, I'm listening, keep talking. No, you're not. No, you're not. And that's what you want to say. You want to say, put the phone down. Or I'm done. So there's different kinds of nonverbal communication, and that's clear. But now they said, I'm listening, but you know that they're not. And why do you know that? Because of nonverbal communication. So, if you take all of that, I want you to use it for an example that I want to show you with body language. Think of a time where you knew you were going to have to do something, and it was going to be uncomfortable. But you're going to have to do it. There's no getting out of it. It may be having a hard conversation with someone. It may be icebreaker. It may be holding a position in Toastmasters that you're just not comfortable doing. Maybe it's evaluator, maybe it's Toastmaster, whatever the case. How do you feel? How did you feel? How would you feel? Think about it. Butterflies in your stomach, a little uncomfortable, start feeling smaller, kind of feel like your body's kind of caving in on itself. Okay? You sit with that for a little bit, a while. You know you're going to have to do it, and you know it's what is best. So you start preparing for it. Okay? Time gets closer, now you're here. And you say within yourself, you know, whatever happens, I'm going to be okay. You know you will. At that moment, that's when you know, and your body language changes. Okay? You start feeling more confident. Your body does. Now, emotionally, you still got a little bit of that fear hanging on, thinking, okay. But you start, when you say, let's do it, you hold your head up high, your shoulders come back, you start marching in there like you own the place. Because that's what you intend to do. You intend to bring it back so everybody can experience what it is you need to share. So my point is this. When your body language changes like that, you still may be shaking in your boots, and your voice may quiver a little bit when it comes out, but it's not going to stay like that. It's going to follow your body language. And as long as they're consistent, it will ring true. So the title of my speech was, So What Are You Saying? This is what I'm saying. Say what you mean, and mean what you say. And keep a check on it with your body language.